Nitai Gaura Sundar, Nitai Gaura Sundar, Gaura Sundar. Jaya Gaurari, 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 Jaya Gaurari. Jaya Prabhupada, 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 Jaya Prabhupada. Prabhupada, 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 Jaya Jaya Prabhupada.
Jamshtavad Paramahangs Pervrajik Charis Tadasisamad, His Divine Grace, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami, Srila Prabhupada Ki, ISKCON's founder Acharya Srila Prabhupada Ki, Anantakoti Vaishnava Vrinda Ki, Namacharya Srila Haridas Thakur Ki, Prem Srikahus Krishna Chaitanya Pramanityananda, Shri Advaita Gadadha Shivasati Gaura Bhaktarinda Ki, Shishi Radha Krishna Gopinath, Shamkund Radhakund Giri Govardhan Ki, Shri Vrindavan Dham Ki, Shri Mayapur Dham Ki, Shri Jagannath Puri Dham Ki, Shri Shri Jagannath Baladev Subhadra Devi Ki, Shri Shri Nitai Gaura Sundar Ki, Srila Prabhupada Ki, Shri Harinam Sankirtan Ki, Shri Hare Krishna Mahamantra Ki, Srila Raghunath Das Goswami Chittadahi Festival Ki, Shri Raghunath Das Goswami Chittadahi Festival Ki, Gaur Premanande. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to Sri Guru and Sri Gauranga. All glories to Srila Prabhupada.
Namaste Narasimhaya. Praladhaladayine. Hiranyakashipurvakshahai. Shilatankana Kalae. Ito nishima parato nishima. Ito nishima parato nishima. Yato yato yamitato nishimo. Bahir nishimo, hirdaye nishimo. नृसिंहं मध्यं शरणं प्रपदे तव करकमलवरे नखमद्भुत शृङ्गा दलिता हिरण्यकशिपु अनुभृङ्गा केशवधीता नरहरिरूपा जय जगदीश हरे जय जगदीश हरे जय जगदीश हरे जयो नरसिंहदेव जयो नरसिंहदेव नरसिंहदेव जयो नरसिंहदेव जयो प्रहलाद महाराज जयो प्रहलाद महाराज प्रहलाद महाराज जयो प्रहलाद महाराज जयो प्रभुपदा जयो प्रभुपदा प्रभुपदा जयो प्रभुपदा प्रभुपाद 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 जयो जयो प्रभुपाद शील सिंहदेव भगवान की जय भक्त प्रहलाद महाराज की जय शील प्रभुपाद की जय जनवल्लभ गिरिवरदारी गोपी जनवल्लभ गिरिवरदारी सोदनंदन ब्रज जनरंजन सोदनंदन ब्रज जनरंजन Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Hare Hare. Prabhupada, 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 Jaya Prabhupada. Srila Prabhupada ki jai, Gaur Premanande, Hari Hari Bol.
Hare Krishna. So, thank you very much. Welcome to our Sunday Love Feast program with His Holiness Bhakti Chaitanya Swami Maharaj. So, we're very glad to see Maharaj in our midst again. And from all accounts, Maharaj will be here every 3 weeks from what the organizers tell me. So, a big warm round of applause for Maharaj being here and coming regularly. So I will hand over to Maharaj without any further ado. He will speak about Raghunath Das Goswami and the Chiddahadahi festival. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Hare Krishna. Krishna Krishna. Hare Hare. Hare Rama. Hare Rama. Rama Rama. Hare Hare. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Sri Jagannath Baladev Subhadra Devi ki jai. Shri Shri Nitai Gaura Sundar ki jai. Yes, so devotees. Well, I'm very happy to be here with you all again. It's been a couple of months or so, and not uneventful, but we will not get into that. The material world has its way of operating. But today, devotees, today is a special day, a slightly unusual special day, but it's very special occasion. It is the anniversary of the Chira Dahi festival of Raghunath Das. At the time he was just Raghunath Das. He later, not long after, but a little later, he became Raghunath Das Goswami, one of the 6 Goswamis of Vrindavan, and very important personal associate of Lord Chaitanya. But at this point, Raghunath Das, he was a householder actually, but he was, you could say, a very perplexed householder, in that he didn't really want to be a householder any longer. He wanted to join Lord Chaitanya. Yes. So, it's a bit of a long story, but that's what we're going to do today. We're going to explain about that little bit of a long story. Raghunath Das and his Chira Dahi festival. Chira refers to like a type of flat rice or chipped rice sort of thing, which at least in India, it's very common, and it's nothing really very special. It's not like some exotic preparation. It's a very simple little preparation. And dahi, of course, that's yogurt. So we'll explain, but basically the whole occasion revolves around Raghunath Das organizing a great feast for many. Shri Shri Jagannath Baladev Subhadra Devi Ki Jai. Shri Shri Nitai Gaura Sundar Ki Jai. Yeah, so he organized a big feast, just a massive feast for thousands of people, of a feast consisting mainly of chipped rice, flat rice, chipped rice, soaked in yogurt, but also a second variety, chipped rice soaked in condensed milk. So there were 2 varieties of this chipped rice. And on the instruction of Lord Nityananda personally, Raghunath Das organized this feast, festival feast, mainly a feast, for all these people. And in this way, he really pleased Lord Nityananda. So anyway, let us go through the story because it's interesting. And of course the doors are closed now, but I assume you noticed on the altar there are 5 pots, sort of moderate-sized pots on the altar. One just by the parampara, and then 2 on the other 2 levels, and finally the top 2 are on the level of Jagannath Baladev and Subhadra Devi. And these are chipped rice with yogurt, and also chipped rice with condensed milk. So this is the story. Let us go through the story because it's a nice one, and we can learn certain things. It's always important to be in the mood of learning, because we are students. Yes, you never stop being a student. The only day you stop being a student is your funeral day. And that's the final lesson. Yeah, so there are things we can learn here about Krishna consciousness and practical things we can learn and apply in our lives in Krishna consciousness. Plus, it's just really nice in the sense of Lord Nityananda interacting with Raghunath Das and the character of Raghunath Das. Okay, so let's get into it. Jai Jai Sri Chaitanya Jai Nityananda. Jai Advaita Chandra Jai Gaura Bhakta Vrinda. Jai Jai Sri Chaitanya Jai Nityananda. Jai Advaita Chandra Jai Gaura Bhakta Vrinda. Jai Jai Sri Chaitanya Jai Nityananda. Jai Advaita Chandra Jai Gaura Bhakta Vrinda. So Raghunath Das, he was born in a very wealthy Vaishnav family. His father was very wealthy, and his uncles, his father's brothers, Hiranya and Govardhan, they were also extremely wealthy. So he was born in such a family, Raghunath Das. But he had met Lord Chaitanya when Lord Chaitanya took sannyas in Katwa, which is not so far from Mayapur, Navadvip. It's by car, it's about, I guess, a 2-hour drive or something. So Lord Chaitanya took sannyas, and then he came back, not exactly to Mayapur in Navadvip, but he came back to Shantipur, which was the place of Advaita Acharya. And it's a little distance from Mayapur, Navadvip. It's about something maybe 30 kilometers or so from the central place of Lord Chaitanya's pastimes. So Lord Chaitanya, now a sannyasi, he went there to Shantipur, the place of Advaita Acharya, and he stayed there for a few days because he wanted to associate with the devotees from Navadvip, Mayapur, who he'd been living with for, he was 24 at this point. So his whole life, 24 years, he'd been living with and associating with basically on a daily basis all the great devotees from Navadvip and Mayapur area. So he wanted to give them a chance to get his association again without getting sort of entangled at home in the the home area, the circle of his home. So he went there to Shantipur, and all those devotees came from Mayapur Navadweep, and just from all over actually. And Raghunath Das came. And Raghunath Das at the time was a householder, and like we said, extremely wealthy, just fantastically wealthy. He'd be what we'd consider now a billionaire, and not a rand billionaire, but like a dollar billionaire, like really very wealthy. So he went there and he met Lord Chaitanya, and Lord Chaitanya gave him some instructions. Well, actually, he met Lord Chaitanya and he appealed to Lord Chaitanya that I'm just tired of being a householder and having to manage all this money and these investments and agricultural programs they had going on. I'm just tired of that. I want to leave it all and join you. Just give it all up and just join you full time. And Lord Chaitanya instructed him. First thing he said, it's really sort of very interesting. He said, "Don't talk like a crazy fellow." Don't talk like a crazy fellow. Lord Chaitanya told him that Krishna, of course he's Krishna, but he's in the role of a devotee. So he said, Krishna understands, and Krishna will make arrangements. So don't panic or do anything extreme. Just carry on, and Krishna will arrange. And he told him, Lord Chaitanya told him, the way he put it is just so interesting. Listen to this. I mean, it's a real classic, actually. Lord Chaitanya told him that what you must do is you must continue in your business activities and all the family financial activities. You have to continue in that, like you really take it seriously. So your father and your uncles, they'll think you're okay, that there's nothing really wrong with you. But internally, you must be focused on Krishna. And he gave such an interesting example. Listen to this, devotees. I'm sure many of you have heard this, that Lord Chaitanya said, you should be like a married lady who has a boyfriend. Hare Krishna. Yes, she has a boyfriend. And actually she's just deeply attached to the boyfriend, and the household situation she's lost interest in. But in order to avoid having a husband become suspicious and maybe take some action to stop her or restrict her or something, Lord Chaitanya said, the lady must do all her household duties very nicely, so the husband thinks everything's okay. And not just okay, but he may think, wow, I've got the best wife in the world. but actually she's focused on the boyfriend. Anyway, devotees, we have to be careful how we take this example. But this is what Lord Chaitanya said. So you must do like that. Do your duties very, very nicely so your parents and the others in your circle, they think you're fine and you're just really absorbed in all these family and financial dealings. But internally, you must be focused on Krishna. And if you do like that, in due course, Krishna will arrange and he'll free you without you having to make some sort of very dramatic exit and cause some sort of scandal or something like that by dropping all your duties and all. So Raghunath Das continued like that. Internally, he just had no interest, less than no interest. But externally, he seemed to be just completely dedicated to all these family and financial affairs. So therefore, his particularly father and his mother, they thought it's okay. Because before that, Raghunath Das had been trying to run away and escape. Literally run away. And so his father got some security men. He hired a security company. I mean, if it's one of these Durban security companies, I'm sure Raghunath Das would have got away easily. But these guys were professionals. And when Raghunath Das would try to run away, they'd catch him and bring him back. So then he met Lord Chaitanya, like I was saying, and Lord Chaitanya told him to just sort of take it easy and adopt this other approach. So he adopted that approach, and now his father thought he's fine, he's okay, and they got him married to some beautiful, beautiful young lady who was just highly qualified in all respects. And they thought, we've got him. We've got him now, so we don't need to worry too much. However, as Lord Chaitanya had said, Raghunath Das, within his heart, he was just always thinking of Lord Chaitanya and quietly desiring to make his escape. So what happened was that by Krishna's arrangement, one night the family priest, Yadunandan Acharya, who was actually a great devotee and associate of Lord Chaitanya, he was the family priest, and he was more or less like the guru of Raghunath Das and the family. And he was actually a great devotee, not just, an official ritualistic family priest type of thing. So the family had their own temple, and in the temple were deities, and it was very nice arrangement. Radha Krishna deities. And Yadunandan Acharya, he would manage the puja, and he was like Prabhanu Prabhu. Yeah. Just keeping all the worship going and getting the devotees. Sometimes, the devotees get a little sort of otherwise, and sometimes they got to be preached to a bit to carry on with their service and not flake out. These things happen sometimes, occasionally. So Yadunandan Acharya, he was managing the whole program. So one night, the devotee whose duty it was to do the late night, the final puja, the final offering, and put the deities to rest, probably like 9 o'clock, or even could have been a little later. Somehow that devotee just neglected his duty, and Yadunandan Acharya had to run around to find someone to get that service done. And Raghunath Das, he understood this is an opportunity. So he volunteered. I'll do it. You go and take rest, and I will look after the deities and do everything. Just don't worry about it. So off went Yadunandan Acharya and devotees. Off went Raghunath Das. He just left everything and just disappeared and went to join Lord Chaitanya. So, this is what happened. So now, a little bit after that, around that time, actually not after that, just a little before, just before, Lord Nityananda visited the area. Raghunath Das and his family were living, I'm not sure exactly where, but there in what is now West Bengal. And Lord Nityananda came with his associates, a whole entourage of at least hundreds, maybe thousands of devotees, and really special devotees. They came to this place on the bank of the Ganges, on the, what would it be, the western side. Yes, the western side of the Ganges. They came to this place named Panihati, and they were going to stop there and have a program. So Raghunath Das became aware of that, so he went there to meet Lord Nityananda, and he'd already spoken with Lord Chaitanya as we described, but he felt he wanted to get some more mercy, some more instruction and inspiration, so he wanted to meet with Lord Nityananda. So he went there to Panihati, and that place is still there. Panihati is there. It's kind of become absorbed in northern Calcutta. It's not like a separate little village or something like that now. It's just part of this, what would you call it, megalopolis, which is now Calcutta, although it's quite some distance from like central Calcutta now. But in those days it was a separate little village. And so Lord Nityananda arrived there with his associates, and Raghunath Das arrived there to meet Lord Nityananda. So let me read a few verses, because it's really very nice, the description of Raghunath Das seeing Lord Nityananda and then being brought to Lord Nityananda and meeting with him, and then being instructed, organize this feast. So I'm going to read a few verses from Chaitanya Charitamrita Antya-lila chapter 6, the meeting of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu and Raghunath Das Goswami. Of course, he wasn't Goswami quite yet, shortly after. And we'll begin with verse 43. Panihati grame paila, prabhura darshana, kirtaniya sevaka sange, ara bahujana. In the village of Panihati, Raghunath Das obtained an interview with Nityananda Prabhu, who was accompanied by many kirtan performers, servants, and others. Ganga tire, vrikshamule, pindara upare, vasiyachen, yena koti, suryodaya kare. Sitting on a rock under a tree on the bank of the Ganges, Lord Nityananda seemed as effulgent as hundreds of thousands of rising suns. So it was really just a completely otherworldly type of sight to see Lord Nityananda. Tale upare bahu bhakta, hanache veshtita, deki prabhura prabhava, Raghunath vismita. Many devotees sat on the ground surrounding Lord Nityananda. Seeing the influence of Nityananda Prabhu, Raghunath Das was astonished. Dandavat hanase padila katadure sevaka kahe Raghunatha dandavata kare. Raghunath Das offered his obeisances by falling prostrate at a distant place. And the servant of Lord Nityananda pointed out, there is Raghunath Das offering you obeisances. So as the verse says, he offered obeisances, dandavats, prostrated on the ground, but at a distant place, like maybe 50 meters away or something along those lines. So the servant pointed that out. And I'll just read the translations of the next few verses. It's really quite something. Hearing this, Lord Nityananda Prabhu said to Raghunath Das, "You are a thief. Now you've come to see me. Come here, come here." Today the Lord called him, but Raghunath Das did not go near the Lord. Then the and placed his lotus feet upon Raghunath Das's head. This is the punishment. This is the punishment, my gosh. When will that day come? when we can get that sort of punishment. Lord Nityananda was by nature very merciful and funny. Being merciful, he spoke to Raghunath Das as follows: "You are just like a thief, for instead of coming near, you stay away at a distant place. Now that I've captured you, I shall punish you." So this is actually the punishment. "Make a festival and feed all my associates yogurt and chipped rice." Hearing this, Raghunath Das was greatly pleased. So, make a festival, make a feast of chipped rice and yogurt. Now, devotees, I know many of you have been to India before, and maybe when you went to India, like particularly the first time, maybe the second time, after a while the system sort of adjusts to it to some degree, never completely, but to a sort of manageable degree. But particularly when I first went to India, that was 1976, India was a different place to what it is today. Completely different. My gosh. You know, you couldn't, in Mayapur, you couldn't get bottled water. What to speak of juice or, some commercial drinks or anything. There was a pump, and there still is the same pump by the main entrance. And that was used for everything. For everything. Bathing, cooking, you name it. So, I don't know what your experience has been like, but for many devotees, and for me too, my first visit, after a while, the digestive system, how to put it, sort of accelerated. You're digesting things quickly, and they just come out like that. Come even sometimes almost squirting out, but no delay. You don't have to wait. I don't know how many of you had any experience like that, but particularly in those days, gosh. And traditionally, the cure is, one of the main cures is, would you believe, yogurt and chipped rice. It's actually medicinal. So normally it's not like, it's certainly not like some festival feast preparation. It's anti-diarrhea medicine. So in other words, what Lord Nityananda is doing, it's like a really extraordinary request. Make a feast of diarrhea medicine. Not completely, because there are two types of chipped rice. Well, chipped rice, one variety was with yogurt, which it really is like that, because the chipped rice is very absorbent, and it may absorb all the sort of, upsetness of the stomach. But the other one was chipped rice with condensed milk. Now that's definitely a bit more opulent. But still, chipped rice, it's sort of, You know, it's a real common person's type of foodstuff. So, generally, devotees do not make feasts of chipped rice and yogurt or even condensed milk. You know, I'm sure we're going to have a nice feast today, and there will be chipped rice with yogurt and with condensed milk there. But I'm sure, as usual, there'll be the other festive type preparations, maybe some butter paneer. What's on the menu for today? Anyway, you'll find out shortly. But you know what I mean, some butter paneer and different things, nice things. And that's a feast. And everyone gets into it. It's just, it's like real ISKCON culture. But chipped rice with yogurt, gosh, it's something else. It really is something else. But somehow, Raghunath Das, with his great faith in Lord Nityananda, he accepted this request, this order, as being something wonderful and something important, and he made it like his mission right then. And he did it. He organized this festival, the cooking, the soaking of the chipped rice, and then the mixing, in some of it with yogurt, some of it with condensed milk, and particularly the variety with condensed milk. They also mixed in with it, they mixed ghee, they mixed sugar candy, camphor. They mixed camphor in with the chipped rice, so it's actually quite exotic. But that was the feast. That was the feast. 2 varieties of chipped rice. So Raghunath Das organized this in very large quantities. And then all of Lord Nityananda's associates, each one was given 2 pots. And that's what they were given. 1 pot with chipped rice and yogurt, the other pot with chipped rice with condensed milk. That's what they got. And Lord Nityananda got that also. So then they all sat down and they just got into this, their chipped rice preparations. That was the program. And as is described here, a little further on, more and more people started gathering because the word got out. Lord Nityananda's here. This festival is happening. This feast is happening. So people started gathering and more people coming. And everyone got 2 pots of chipped rice, yogurt, condensed milk. That's what everyone got. So Lord Nityananda, with his very close associates, they were sitting under one tree. We read that he was sitting under a tree. What was it? Vriksha. Oh, I forget the other term. Vriksha Mule, I think. At the foot of this big banyan tree. And you know what, devotees? This is not so long ago. It's not like from Lord Krishna's time. This is now from, say, approximately 500 or so years ago. That tree is still there at Panihati it's a place our devotees don't really go to so much, but we have a really nice ISKCON temple there with really nice devotees. I've been there several times, or 5 or 6 times maybe. And it's just really great. And it's about 100 meters from the tree. The tree is still there. So Lord Nityananda and his close associates, they were sitting under the tree and around the tree. And then others were on the bank, because the tree is just right on the bank, just above the river. And then there's the bank which goes down. So some were sitting on the bank, but there were so many people gathering that there wasn't enough space, what to speak of under the tree, but even on the bank. So many devotees were sitting in the river. And what did they have? 2 pots. Everyone had 2 pots. So then they got into it. They really got into the prasadam. And then, as is described here a little further on, a really amazing thing happened. Lord Nityananda, in meditation, called Lord Chaitanya to come. And Lord Chaitanya came, but he was invisible to practically everyone. Just a few of the very elevated devotees saw that here's Lord Chaitanya. And Lord Nityananda took Lord Chaitanya around amongst the devotees. So they're meeting the devotees and seeing the devotees relishing the 2 types of chipped rice. Then Lord Nityananda sat down with Lord Chaitanya and started feeding him with his own hand, Lord Nityananda. And not just, feeding him, but pushing it into his mouth. More and more, and just filling Lord Chaitanya's mouth. But the devotees couldn't see Lord Chaitanya, the great majority. So they wondered, what's going on? Lord Nityananda's laughing and sort of holding this chipped rice up and doing something with it, but what's going on? But some devotees saw that Lord Chaitanya is there, and Lord Chaitanya is accepting 2 types of chipped rice from Lord Nityananda. And this is all going on by the sponsorship and organization of Raghunath Das. Then the public was just more and more, hundreds, then thousands of people were gathering. And then some merchants came with all different sorts of fruits and even cooked foods and started selling them. But Raghunath Das bought everything from them. He bought all the foodstuffs they were trying to sell, and then you know what he did? He just gave it back to them to eat, along with 2 pots of chipped rice. So these things were happening. Just amazing, amazing things. The festival of Raghunath Das with Lord Nityananda, the chipped rice festival. So today is the anniversary, and We have our 2 types of chipped rice. You must make the most of it. And as you're relishing that, please remember this pastime, because it's a very special pastime. And right at the end, Raghunath Das asked Lord Nityananda, can you help me? I want to escape my family situation and join Lord Chaitanya. And Lord Nityananda told him, just don't worry, Krishna will arrange. And just shortly after this incident with Yadunandanacharya that we mentioned, it happened. Shri Jagannath Baladev Subhadra Devi Ke, Shri Shri Nitai Gaura Sundar Ke, Shri Raghunath Das Goswami Ke, Go Premanande. So there you go, devotees. That's the occasion for today. So let us now take part in the arati and the kirtan for the deities. Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.